Hi, everyone. As Christina just mentioned, this is Stuart Mayer from Insight, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I'd especially like to thank the team from Divvy for presenting. We at Insight already have a number of portfolio companies who are using the Divvy offering that's going to be discussed today, and they've all told me the same thing, that the value prop is actually very clear. So I'm really excited for you to see what they do. As always, I'd encourage you to let me know if there's any other topics or software solutions that you'd like to see covered in future webinars. And with that, I'd like to throw it over to the team from Divvy so we can get started.
Thanks, Stuart and Christina. Just a quick sound check. Stuart, can you hear me okay? Great. Well, nice to meet everybody. I'm not going to take too much of your time, but my name's Tyler Hogge, and I lead the product and risk teams at Divvy, and I'm joined by Sterling Snow, who leads our revenue org at Divvy. I'm just going to spend 3 or 4 minutes outlining the problem that Divvy was created to solve, and then we'll just spend 10 or 15 minutes showing you how thousands of companies are using Divvy to solve some of these problems. But before we do that, I think it's important to kind of lay out the state of the world today and how we believe many finance teams are kind of flying blind in how they manage their spend and their overall financial stack. So let's just imagine that you are the controller, the CFO, or the head of finance of a 50-person company, be it in tech or otherwise. The typical setup today for spend is I believe, very, very, outdated. And the layout that people typically use looks something like this. You probably have a corporate credit card. Let's say it's American Express. And there's maybe 5 to 10% of your company that's entrusted to have that corporate card. The reason you don't share the corporate card out to everybody is that has a lack of control, and you're exposing your entire credit line on each card. So that's one thing to point out of this current status quo. The next thing is that most heads of finance are flying blind as far as knowing what is being spent in real time. So let's talk about that very quickly. As it stands today, an employee at one of your companies could spend something and you wouldn't know what that amount was or what it was spent on until sometimes 30 or even 60 days after the transaction takes place. The typical motion is that individual will spend on a personal credit card, again, because they may not have a corporate credit card. And then at the end of the month, they're creating this, going through this expense report hell where they have to create an expense report, someone has to approve it, and then they're getting reimbursed after the fact, again, sometimes up to 30 or 60 days. So there's a couple problems with this current process. If you're the head of finance, you don't feel like you have control over that spend because it's all reactive and not proactive. You don't feel like you have any visibility over that spend because, again, you don't know until after the fact. And then the third problem is this expense report hell that I talked about. It's actually a lose-lose for both sides. As the controller, you're having to follow up with people and send those dreaded end of month emails saying, get your expense reports in. Have you got your expense report in? Basically hounding people. And if you're the sales rep who has to submit an expense report, you're taking sometimes a half day a month or a full day a month just to organize all of your expenses and get that expense report submitted. So these 3 problems of like lack of visibility, lack of control, and then the expense report hell are kind of the status quo for most companies across the country. But I wanted to spend about 5 or 10 minutes is all in showing you kind of how Divvy solves that problem. We now have over 7,000 customers or so that are using Divvy in order to solve that. And we want to kind of lay out best practices and how companies have gone about finding relief from those 3 issues. So again, now let's assume you're that same head of finance at a 50-person company. You log into Divvy for the first time, and the first thing you're going to see on Divvy is your credit limit. Divvy is a credit card, just like an American Express or a Chase or a Capital One charge card. You're issued a credit line, your spending happens on that credit line, and then you pay back that credit line. We have rewards just like any other product, but the thing that makes Divvy unique is that we have married this credit or this capital with software. And that's what I want to show you for just a few minutes here is how that software actually works. So as you log into Divvy, you've got a simple overview of your dashboard. And the first thing I want to point out is a solution to that problem that I called reactive and no visibility. With Divvy, instead of there just being 5 to 10% of your company having a credit card, we'll roll out credit cards to the entire company. even the interns or whomever. And the reason we're able to do that is because you can control how much spending power any individual has on that credit card. So you have kind of centralized control, but you decentralize the spending, but you're able to control that. So let's say I make a transaction today on Divvy, and instead of having to wait 30 or 60 days to know what that transaction was on, I can know in real time what is being spent, including the transactions that are going through across the company. So if our team has an outing, or if they're paying for a space at WeWork, or if they're filling up gas on behalf of the company, as soon as that card gets swiped, you'll refresh Divvy, and the website and the application will show you what is being spent in real time. So that, again, that immediate problem of no visibility is solved. But the next thing I want to show real quickly is what we call budgets within Divvy. Budgets are the way that we organize spend inside of Divvy. So if you're that head of finance within a 50-person company, you likely have some sort of budgets that you're keeping in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. The magic behind Divvy is that we're able to allow our customers to take those budgets and essentially put them into software and then enforce spending against those budgets. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how that process works. Let's say I am, again, that controller, and I want to create a Q4 marketing budget. And I want it to be $10,000 budget with a buffer of about $5,000. Now, this is a pretty unique feature here. Divvy is trying to help companies spend smarter, and often that means helping them spend less. And so we allow kind of a hard and soft budget here. The way this works in practice is this budget will have a 10-minute soft budget, or sorry, a $10,000 soft budget, but a $15,000 in total hard budget. So if you go over that soft limit, it won't stop you, it won't decline you. You're able to go up to 5,000, but it nudges you to keep your spend underneath that goal. So as we click next, we won't set an expiration date on this budget. It's just a one-time budget. And we'll go ahead and add where Divvy becomes kind of person-based. We're going to add the people who manage this budget. So I'm going to be the budget owner here. And I'm going to say that Sterling Snow is going to be a member of that budget. And I'm also going to say that Blakely Craig, and our head of finance, is going to be a member of that budget. And I'm going to say that Alex Bean, who's a co-founder, is a member of that budget. So you start to see how Divvy becomes people-focused instead of credit limit focused. And we've now got this budget created. We'll all manage it. Sterling and Blakely and Alex are members. And then this last question we ask you is how much control you want to have over this budget. On one hand, we have customers who say, hey, I don't want any spend to happen unless it's pre-approved. We call that almost a zero-based budgeting. So Sterling, if he was to go swipe at the gas station right now, and he has not been pre-approved for a certain amount, it would decline. However, there's some who say that's far too controlling. I'd rather open up this budget so that everybody could spend on it as though it's one pot of money, because we trust each other not to go over budget. And you can set that as well. In this case, I'm going to show you what it looks like for the most restrictive, that zero-based budgeting tool, but it's completely flexible either way. So again, we've got this Q4 marketing budget. It's a one-time budget, and then Sterling, Blakely, and Alex are going to join it. As soon as I click submit here, I've now got a notification on my phone that's probably very difficult to see, but Sterling did as well, that says you've been added to a new budget, Q4 marketing budget. Send funds to your team to start spending. Now this budget's been creative, but if Sterling again goes to swipe at the gas station, he will get declined. But what I'm going to ask Sterling to do here is to request funds within Divvy, or I can actually send him funds within Divvy. So for Blakely, for example, I'm going to go in and make his, you can go in and make his limit, say $100. And for Sterling, he's going to request funds, and I'll show you how that works. So for Blakely, his funds, we're going to make $100 and save changes. And now if Blakely goes to swipe for anything less than $100, he's good to go. Sterling, on the other hand, is going to have to request funds. Let's say he's an intern who needs to go get coffee for the team. I want him to be able to request funds in real time in order to do that. And Sterling would send a request within the app. I, as the budget owner, would approve it. And then in real time, I'm kind of provisioning spend power across this budget. Now, I want to pause here and then point back to the problems that we started out with. Having this budget within Divvy now gives you not just complete visibility that we already talked about, but you now have complete control. The punchline would be you'll never go over budget again. You cannot go over budget within Divvy. It won't allow you to do so. And so now as a head of finance, not only am I sleeping better because I can see the spend as it's happening, but I know that it will not go over the limits that I get to control. And that's a different type of feeling that you have as a head of finance at a 50-person company. Now, over time, what happens is the Q4 marketing budget gets put into Divvy, maybe the travel budget gets put into Divvy, and you essentially move to where Divvy becomes your core source of truth for all spend within the company. This is now becoming kind of the central hub for all of spend. The last couple of things I want to show you is how Divvy becomes a subscription management tool. So not only does spending happen on physical cards, but spending can also happen on virtual cards. And it's a very simple thing to do. We're going to create a card here for our Facebook ads. Now remember, we're in the marketing budget. Everything ties to budgets. It's just a one-time card. I don't want Facebook to hit this every single month. I'm going to expire these in a week from today, but I can make that change. And I'm going to say that it's a $4,000 limit for December's advertising spend. I'm the card holder here. And the magic here is that you can actually pre-fill the types of spend that this is so that it flows through to your accounting system. So let's say I use QuickBooks Online. I can now set this card to the exact GL, custom GL codes that I'd like it to have within Divvy. It'll then flow through to QBO as soon as it's swiped so that my month-end close process is completely seamless. That transaction is booked and reconciled into QBO with a direct integration. So now that I've created this virtual card, you'll notice that this is a virtual card that Facebook will have access to and no other merchant. So spending within Divvy becomes one-to-one merchant to card management, which is far more secure and far more convenient for both the merchant and the company. Now, if we go back to the budget here, you'll notice that this Facebook ads card also spends against the budget, but it can't go over the limit that you set, and it also couldn't go over the limit of the budget itself. What this allows you to do is essentially decentralize the ability for anyone in the company to create a virtual card or use their physical card for any type of spend. Removing that friction on having to share cards is incredibly convenient compared to what you might have, what you might be used to today, but you're able to remove the friction without removing the control. Now, once Divvy launched this card product, it became pretty clear that there were certain transactions that might not be able to take place on a Divvy credit card. For example, if you have to make an out-of-pocket cash transaction or if you have a mileage reimbursement. And so within Divvy, we created the ability to do out-of-pocket reimbursements as well for the exact two scenarios that I just talked about, an out-of-pocket cash expense or a mileage expense. And I'm going to show you just briefly what that looks like. Let's say I take a client out to lunch at the steakhouse and the reimbursement amount was $150. And for whatever reason, I did not have a Divvy card. Maybe they didn't take a credit card or I forgot it. I'm going to go ahead and create a reimbursement request, lunch with a client, and I'm going to upload a receipt here. Let's see if we can find a recent one that should work. And once that receipt is uploaded, I choose the department just like before so that it flows through to the GL, and I'm going to request reimbursement within Divvy. Once that takes place, the same type of approval flow that you might see within Expensify or Concur, where a budget owner and admin needs to approve it and then fund it right there within Divvy. This reimbursements feature has allowed our clients to finally kind of rid themselves of the contract that they have with Expensify, or in many cases Concur as well. And so now Divvy can become that central hub for all card spend and then the long tail of non-cardable spend through reimbursements. In the last couple of minutes, I just want to share with you the last type of spend that we enable within Divvy, and that is called what I would call like AP spend or invoice spend. Divvy launched a product called Bill Pay to handle that as well. So not only card spend can be handled in Divvy, but any sort of invoice that has been created on behalf of the company can also get fulfilled through Divvy via ACH or check or virtual card. all three ways can happen within our bill pay product. So if we create a payment here, all I'm going to do is upload a new invoice. I'm going to search for this invoice that I've already, let's see here, that I've already pre-approved. Let's see if this one's the right one. Perfect. That invoice is going to get loaded within Divvy. We will pre-fill the amount of the transaction so that the head of finance can simply upload that invoice. And then just like reimbursements, you'll be able to go back into this approval flow and have a two-step approval process in order to say, yes, that invoice is good and should be fulfilled via check, ACH, or virtual card. So if we tie it back to the beginning, Divvy's trying to give this one-stop shop for all card spend, non-card spend, and reimbursements for anything that takes place off of a Divvy card. That becomes the central hub for all spending, and we're allowing companies to spend smarter as a result, and ultimately solving those three problems that we kind of talked about at the beginning, which is lack of visibility, lack of control, and kind of the mess that we like to get, that we call the monthly expense report process. I'm going to pause there. That's about a 10 to 15 minute whirlwind of a demo of the entire Divvy platform. I'd love to talk more about how, what questions anyone has and how other companies are solving some of these problems. Are there any that have come in, Christina? Anything we should talk about?
Yes, there's one that just came in, and for everyone who hasn't submitted a question, please feel free to do that in the Q&A module. The first one is, how is company-wide credit limit determined? Is there another option like direct debit from bank account or pre-funded balance to draw from?
Henry, it's a great question. So we have an underwriting team that underwrites every single business that applies for a Divvy credit card. We have a number of different ways that we can underwrite people. One way is we simply look at your cash balance. If you link your bank account to Divvy, we can underwrite you based off of your cash. And a second way is traditional underwriting, where we'll look at your financial statements over the last year or 2 years and determine a credit limit that we can assign to you as a company. Our entire goal would be to give you a credit limit that would allow you to be exclusive on Divvy. So you can cut up your American Express or your Chase card or whatever. So there's an underwriting process that takes place. And to the second part of your question, if you prefer, we also allow kind of a direct debit option. We call it a pre-funded or a prepaid account. That also allows us to get more aggressive on rewards, for example, because we're not issuing credit per se. So the answer, Henry, is yes, we do both. Both are options. A follow-up question I'm seeing is, does Divvy integrate with Netsuite? We do. We have a Netsuite integration live today. It's still early, and I would call it in beta with a number of our companies, but we do have one today and are excited to continue to improve it. Great questions. Christina, I think you are muted if you're talking.
Sorry about that. Is Divvy connected to company's bank account and funds automatically withdrawn monthly?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. Our customers link their bank account to Divvy. And again, one of the reasons they do that is we can underwrite off of that bank balance. But the other one is what you explicitly asked, which is we'll pull funds in order to pay off your balance every single month.
Wonderful. Do we have to earmark funds in our bank account?
I'm not sure what is meant by that question. I think the answer is no. You don't have to earmark any funds. We're just going to pull funds that are owed, just like any other credit card. And then on the spending side, the budget is how you would earmark funds on what's to spend. But no, there's no need for you to separate funds within your bank account.
Great. Those were the questions that we had submitted now. I'll wait another minute or two to see if anyone else has a question.
Great.
Oh, another one. What is reporting like?
Yeah, so reporting is, we have the ability for you to see kind of spend to date, spend by vendor, spend by individual. We don't have a full reporting module within Divvy, although that is on our roadmap that we plan to build over the coming months.
Great.
So I would call it kind of a V1 for now.
I'm just going to give it 30 more seconds. Another one. Does Divvy integrate with Xero?
We do not yet, but that one is also on our roadmap for 2021. So right now, our current accounting integrations are QBO and NetSuite. In 2021, we want to add QBD, QuickBooks Desktop, and Xero.
One thing we do have when it comes to things that aren't fully fledged integrations is we do have custom CSV modules that we can build that allow the Divvy platform to pair nicely with whatever sort of accounting or ERP system folks are using.
That's helpful. Thank you, Sterling. Another question. Invoices received for payment are usually after the fact. Does Divvy provide a simple PO type process pre-approval for these instances?
So you're talking about like almost a pre-approval. Is that what I heard there, Christina?
PO type process pre-approval.
Yeah, you're correct that after the fact that invoice has already been created. We do not have what I'd call full pre-approval within Divvy, although it's interesting to us, and we have some customers who have requested it. It's not something we have today.
Another question, does it integrate with QB Enterprise?
I guess if it's QuickBooks Online, is that distinct from QuickBooks Enterprise? Sterling, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, it's different. So QBD, QBE, and QBO are all different. So same question, same answer there. It doesn't have a direct integration. It is on the roadmap, and we do have the CSV export functionality to match up nicely with QB Enterprise.
Great. A lot ahead. I think those were the main questions. Again, I'll leave some time. What is fee structure to use Divvy in general?
That's a great question. I buried the lead there. Divvy is completely free. Everything that you just saw is free. So I think the thing that I enjoy most about working at Divvy is that we're serving the needs of everyday SMBs with what we think they need most to thrive. And that is a credit line and free, delightful software. There's no fee at all to use Divvy. If you do choose to use that reimbursements module that I talked about, there's a small monthly fee because we view that as almost a direct replacement for Expensify. But for core Divvy, which is everything that you saw on the credit card side, it is 100% free. No contract as well.
Love that. NetSuite Integration.
We do have one.
Incorporate or Go for it.
Sorry, Christina, it cut out there. Can you repeat that question?
Oh, sorry. I think my internet is unstable. The NetSuite, can you hear me, by the way?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. The NetSuite integration, are there plans to incorporate their amortization feature for prepaid expenses?
I believe the answer is yes, but whoever asked that question, I'd love to follow up with a specific answer of using the product manager who oversees our NetSuite integration.
We'll send that out in the follow-up as well. What is the cost per month? Do you integrate with TripAction? I think
Yeah, the cost per month is $0. It's completely free. And we do have an integration with TripAction. We have a partnership with TripAction today for all travel bookings. Sterling, do you want to talk about that partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. So the same way that Concur integrates with Amex Travel, we've done a similar thing with our TripActions partnership. It's actually, we call it Divvy Travel, but it is white labeled TripAction solution. So for those of you who are familiar with that, it functions exactly the same as TripActions. You can set all of your parameters, you can set your different reward settings, and make sure that you can monitor travel in the exact way that you want to.
Great. And what is the rebate percentage we get back?
I'm going to defer to Sterling on that one too. We have a core rewards program that we can walk through.
Yep. So you can see on Divvy's site, we have a point system that allows you to earn accelerated rewards on categories that we found most impactful to businesses. And then we have a number of insight companies that, some of them really like the point system. Some of them prefer straight cash back. And as that's outside of our normal program, we do allow insight companies to have a custom rewards agreement with Divvy where we kind of talk about cash back and rebates on a one-off basis. And so anyone on this phone call would qualify for that conversation in the case that they didn't like the point system.
Great. Again, I'll leave a few seconds. What is your average implementation time with TripAction and NetSuite?
Great question. I can take that one because I own the implementation team. Usually it's a matter of 2 weeks. It can go a little bit longer or a little bit shorter depending on how complex the setup is and how much time we can dedicate up front to just getting those integrations to talk to each other. But really it is quite quick. And when I say 2 weeks, it actually is much shorter than that, but the mail times to get physical cards ordered and in hands of employees is what ends up dragging that average time up just a bit. It is not a laborious change management process. It's actually quite quick and painless.
These are great questions.
I know, I love it. I'm just gonna give it 20 more seconds. We do not have credit cards. Is that an issue?
So if you don't have credit cards today, that's fine. We would put you through our typical underwriting process and see if Divvy can get you credit. And then if you can't, or your credit history is too thin, no problem at all. We also offer a pre-funded option that'll allow you to pay essentially with your bank account.
Great. Is customer service available via phone or chat?
We do both. So we do phone, chat, and email for our customer support. Just because you asked the question, the CSAT, it hovers around 99%. It's like absurdly good. We've overinvested some of Insight's money that they gave us into making sure that we had a very robust customer success and customer support organization. Because in the credit card and banking financial services space, you're not used to getting excellent customer support. And so we want to make sure that that's a differentiator for Divvy.
Does everyone absolutely have to have a card? What if we don't want to give it to interns?
Totally fine. That's back to the control point. You don't have to roll it out to everybody. However, there is actually no risk in rolling it out to everybody because you can control it. But we see companies who decide not to roll it out to 100% of their employee base for sure. Totally your choice.
Yeah, another just point on that is we see companies who use Divvy to just replace their corporate card program. So if you had an Amex before, now you have a Divvy card. And we see people like Tyler mentioned roll out much broader sets of cards because you can control that with a zero balance budget and get some of the empowerment and some of the perks from people feeling like they have a corporate card. We see all ends of that spectrum.
Great. Well, Sterling, Tyler, this was an amazing presentation. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. We will be sharing the recording as well as information to connect with the Divvy team directly via email by the end of the day. So keep a lookout for that email. And thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.